So you want to move to Los Angeles, or maybe you've given a thought or just exploring the possibility of doing so. And of course, while Los Angeles is such a unique and creative city, you've also heard horror stories about safety, traffic, the exponential cost of living here. Is it worth it? Let's explore all the pros and cons and you decide for yourself. Come on. There's a lot that I love about Los Angeles. Well, of course, as someone that lives here and makes videos about it. But as with any city, there is also a lot that does frustrate me. As someone potentially moving here for the first time or moving back, you'll of course want to weigh all of those pros and cons. First off, yes, traffic can be really bad here, not just during typical rush hours, but almost entirely throughout the day and during the weekend. Although it's just something that you manage, as we'll go into later on, decide what's best for you when it comes where to live and how that works with your commute. Also, particularly with rush hours, I feel like LA gets a little bit of a bad rap for its traffic because I've been to plenty of other cities, Dallas, Austin, even cities like Phoenix and Las Vegas that have absolutely horrible traffic as well. Very comparable and sometimes even worse than the traffic you get in LA. Yeah, it can be a bit annoying because it's almost constant in LA. During the main parts of the day in other cities, it's pretty much just as bad as it is here. So, you know, just like any big city, you're gonna have to deal with traffic. That's just something you're gonna get yourself into living and driving in a big city. And while the weather on days like today is gorgeous and beautiful, don't expect it to be like this every single day. Just earlier this week, it was cloudy and pouring rain and just really crappy weather all day long. For much of the winter and spring, that's how it tends to be. Like right now in March, you do get sunny days like this, but they're intermixed between a lot of pretty cloudy, crappy days. Hey, Future Parker here. Speaking of quickly changing weather, I just got out of an hour-long fitness class with Orange Theory, and now the sky is completely full of clouds. What gives? And of course, even in the summer, you do get the notorious, here at least, June gloom. More often than it's sunny, it's actually pretty overcast and cloudy. Another thing you want to keep in mind is that there's often a fog and overcast weather over the west side, more so than further inland here by Los Feliz and Hollywood. You may think, I want to live by the sunny beach and coast, by Venice or Playa Vista. Just keep in mind that even more often than here in Hollywood, especially in the mornings and early afternoons, it's going to be foggy and overcast more often than not over there. So, you've decided you are indeed going to move to Los Angeles. You've weighed the pros and cons. Congratulations! I'm excited for you. This is an amazing, massive city with plenty of opportunity. Now the decision has to be made. What part of this city are you going to live in? And this is an important decision to make. Like I've said, and I'm sure you've heard from plenty of other people, this is a massive city. In fact, not even just one city, but dozens of cities spread out over dozens of square miles. Where you live can make a big impact on your quality of life or the lifestyle that you choose or desire to make. For example, I'm sure you've seen before that LA lacks community, that it's hard to find friends in your neighborhood, but honestly, that's really dependent on the part of the city that you choose to live in and can vary wildly. For example, if you're hoping for some open space and parks and trails, like the park that I'm in right now here in Los Feliz, you may want to look around this area. They also have the trails all around and through Griffith Observatory right above Los Feliz here. Other parts of the city are going to be a lot more urban. If you're looking for tall buildings and feeling more like it's closer to Manhattan or a crowded, dense city sort of vibe, definitely stick around downtown LA and Koreatown area. Very dense, busy, late night spots all throughout those parts. Not necessarily the rest of the city, which can definitely have a bit more of a suburban feel to it. And obviously, what job you work and where your friends, if you have any in LA, are located should be considerations as well. If you do have to commute to your job, it may be wise to consider being closer to it in the city itself, obviously depending depending on where it's at. But if you're hybrid or work remotely and you don't necessarily want to be in the dense, more crowded city area itself, you could definitely consider places outside of LA, such as Pasadena, or even just over the Hollywood Hills from where I'm at right now, up in Studio City in NoHo. A lot more chill vibe up there, still with plenty of bars, restaurants, and other things to do all around, but a lot more chill and easier to find parking as well. And of course, when it comes to choosing a place to live, you'll want to consider your lifestyle needs. Like if you love a certain cuisine or you love fine dining, going out and having nightlife, that may vary wildly depending on the part of the city you're in. And it could be difficult to get to places if you're not in that area. Looking for good nightlife and late night spots, you'll want to be in the dense and crowded Koreatown area most likely. Depending on the cuisine you want, Thai Town by Hollywood, you know, all those different areas with ethnic cuisines. There's of course Little Tokyo in downtown, also by Sawtell on the west side. They have a lot of Japanese and other Asian cuisine. Out in the San Gabriel Valley, very popular with Chinese and other Asian stuff out there. For on the west side, Santa Monica, while Venice is a bit more chill, casual, coastal type of vibes. I feel like a lot of people, just like with traffic, give LA a bad rap for its cuisine for some reason. They think it's just, you know, like street food and the tacos and taco trucks and stuff. And of course there is a lot of that. It's always fun to grab some cheap $2-3 tacos from a taco truck here in LA in the middle of the night, or just whenever, like walking around and stopping by a taco truck. With that being said, there's so much more to LA's food scene and cuisine than just street food and tacos. There's plenty of fine dining restaurants, tons of ethnic cuisines, both casual and fancy. You can just find so much here. And I've done a few food vlogs here and there about various options, whether it's cheap eats or burgers or that sort of thing. Let me know if you'd want to see more in the future. I was thinking of doing a video about Bib Gourmand restaurants in LA. If you don't know what that is, that's restaurants in the Michelin Guide that have been designated as excellent gourmet quality food for very affordable prices. And I've been thinking about doing a video where I cover some of my favorites of those around the Los Angeles area. If you want to see that, let me know so I can get to work on it next. As for what I was saying about finding that community feel where you live, you can definitely find that pretty much anywhere, but there are certainly parts of the city where it's easier than others. For example, here in Los Feliz, which I mentioned as being good for parks and trails nearby if you're looking for some open spaces, also a lot more of that community feel. Just above Silver Lake and Echo Park, and Los Feliz is a bit of an escape from the rest of the city itself. You know, it's more of a almost villagey, neighborly type of vibe and atmosphere, even with the streets being full of cars throughout the day, because it is LA after all. It still manages to hold on to a very village almost type of feel than a lot of the rest of LA would. And of course, venturing further out, like the aforementioned Pasadena or parts of the valley, you'll definitely find a lot more of just that chill vibe while still urban city. And that's one of the things that I love about LA so much. A lot of people complain about how huge it is and how hard it is to get from place to place, but it also gives people a chance to find something for pretty much everyone. You can find a quiet suburban neighborhood not far from the main part of the city of LA itself. You can be in a dense environment like Koreatown. You can find lovely communities like Los Feliz or suburbs like Pasadena. And of course, I've barely even touched at all yet on the west side with Santa Monica and Venice and all those coastal communities. A bit more expensive out there, although if you do want to be on the west side, you could also find more affordable apartments and other housing in like Mar Vista, Playa Vista. If you'd ever want a video about those areas in the future to get more info on them and things to do there and advice on visiting or living there, then certainly let me know and I can work on that in the future. Another consideration to make that I don't necessarily see a ton of people talking about is the different options for housing, particularly when it comes to apartments. When looking for apartments, let me just give a slight overview of some of the laws and regulations governing old versus new apartments that may pertain to you and preferences that you have. The only apartments that are rent controlled in Los Angeles are ones that are like from the 70s and older. Any since then don't have any sort of like rent control on them, and oftentimes people try to hold on to them as long as they can so they don't lose that rent control. But if you do manage to find a deal on something like that, you may want to consider consider jumping on it despite its age. But again, personal preference. Now, when it comes to newer apartments, which with my personal taste, I prefer sticking to the newer apartments. Despite the housing crisis and issues like that, there really are a lot popping up all over the place, including just below Barnsdale Park here in Los Feliz. There's a bunch of new apartments cropping up right below here. And of course, I'm not an expert with a ton of knowledge on any of this, and this is all just personal experience and personal recommendations that I'm giving, so of course you can take it all with a grain of salt. But when it comes to my own personal advice, I probably would stick with a newer apartment that's managed by a larger management company. When dealing with older buildings and individual landlords, you risk them not always necessarily following the laws or regulations to a T, and then you have to look into it yourself and see what you can do to defend yourself if something arises. If you're just in a larger apartment complex, which also comes with plenty of amenities, usually pools, fitness centers, other things sometimes, and of course security as well, then you're also dealing with a management company, usually at least, will be following the rules to a T, not doing anything illicit or trying to scam you out of certain rights. Just so you know, that's from my personal anecdotal experience and recommendations, so take that as you wish, of course. Now, especially if you're not coming from another larger city like New York or Chicago or something like that, it might come as a little bit of a sticker shock for any of the apartments, but also some of those newer ones. A lot of the one bedrooms start well over $2,000 a month, and to get more than a one bedroom, you're probably looking at over $3,000 a month in a rent payment. You know, obviously there's options if you don't have a partner or you don't have enough money to get a space by yourself. There's plenty of groups on Facebook or other online sites where you can search for people just like you trying to come here to Los Angeles, and you can get yourself paired up with a like-minded roommate so y'all have too many arguments or feuds. Trust me, from my college days, I've had a few nightmare situations that I wouldn't want to go back to. If you vibe with someone well, it's easy to find plenty of other people looking for the same thing you are, with splitting the cost of one of these 1 or 2 bedroom apartments. Honestly, when it comes down to it, there's a reason that LA is as popular, crowded, and sometimes expensive as it can be. This place is so unique and creative and full of a plethora of diverse people from all arrays and walks of life. And especially if you're into meeting all sorts of new people and you're a creative person and you're a go-getter, you're gonna love it here. But honestly, this place has so many options that there really is something for everyone here when it truly comes down to it. So I hope you found this video helpful in some way if you're looking to move to Los Angeles or learn more about exploring that possibility. Also, if you're looking to just visit Los Angeles for the first time or come back again, then perhaps check out my top 10 tips for visiting Los Angeles right after this. But with that, I'll see you later, and stay for the bloopers. Thanks. Pouring rain all weekend long. Was it this weekend? I forget. You can definitely find that pretty much here. This place is so unique and creative and full of a plethora of